Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank Podcast. I'm here with Kim.
All right. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you
Kim,
so much.
that is
Out of the
some
blank.
fascinating wallpaper you have behind you. What is that?
Yeah, sorry about that. That's my company's wallpaper. Actually, I can flip it
No,
if you
it's
want.
fine. I can't
Yeah,
read the language. It's in a different
it's
language.
it's in Mandarin. It's in Mandarin.
Now, is
So
that like the orange or is it even better?
this one, uh, yeah, a little better.
A little better. Well, Kim, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, man?
Yeah. I'm Kim, of course. That's my name. Very simple. KIM. From Philippines, from the Philippines, a beautiful town, and actually, my hearts are with those who are, um, with the typhoon, who are affected with the typhoon. So they're experiencing bad stuff right now. So my thoughts and my heart is those who are on the oh, those who are affected by the typhoon. So they're going through a lot right now. And by the way, I am an ESL teacher. I teach English to students in China, helping them with their English skills, with their communication skills.
Does that ever get
So
tasking at times? I mean, trying to teach a whole new language to somebody. I mean, even Rosetta Stone can't do it right. It seems like I want to give up after the first try. So, how difficult is that? Like, you feel like you're teaching them the right things, or
in my case, we already have the modules ready for our students. We already have the lesson materials, so you won't be really find it difficult. I think that the most difficult part is your patience. You're adjusting to different kinds of students, especially the kids and the people of different ages. So you really
yeah,
have to adjust most of the time.
during the summer when I used to work at a hotel, we would have a bunch of Romanian and Bulgarian students come in, and I would ask, like, write down some words for me to learn. They're like, what do you want to know? I'm like, just like the basics, like hi, just to be able to function and stuff. And I noticed certain of them would take it seriously and they would teach me like legit actual words. And then others would teach me the dirty ones, like the ones you're not supposed to say in public. And I would know because I would bond with these people over the summer. So I was like, all right, what do you teach me? What is this? Doesn't mean hello. What is it? And then they would tell me, I'm like, that's so bad. Like I would walk up to someone and be like, are you kidding me? He's
Oh
like, yeah.
man.
And he's laughing, dying. He thinks it's hilarious. I'm like, that's not funny at all. That's I'm
Well,
trying to be polite. Like one of them invites me into their home or something. I'm like, oh, beautiful place, but really I'm telling them to screw off. I'm like, you're a terrible person.
oh my god, that's really horrible. Trolling you like that. So
I mean,
yeah,
if you asked anybody today to teach another language, at least in America, if you're asking us to teach somebody a whole new language, people would give up after the first 5 minutes. I've taught, it was difficult to kind of be able to handle it because the patience level has to be extreme for a lot of people to be able to teach. It's like trying to like teach
yeah,
a baby. It's not that the you're not offending the person by saying they're a baby learning a whole new language, but that's what it is. You're learning something new for the
yeah.
very first time. Nobody just immediately is born and starts speaking the playwrights of Shakespeare. It's like, can you imagine a baby coming out of the womb and just being like, who's that knocking on my chamber door? That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. It's
Yeah.
impossible to do so. So it's like when you're trying to teach somebody a process, you have to remember not to give up on them just because they're not getting it on their first try. Eventually, it's going to stick. You're going to pick up some things. Now, where I'm fascinated with this is the fact of depending on your location, like let's take the United States, for instance, you're teaching
Yeah.
English. That is the main common language here is English, but depending on your area in the United States, you get an accent. The accent's something crazy where you can teach somebody the proper words to speak, but then like if they're from Boston, they're gonna come off with an accent like this. If you're from
Yes,
Baltimore,
definitely.
that's to me that's fascinating. Does that happen in the Philippines? Like people develop different accents depending on where they're at?
Yes. In the Philippines, we have a different accent, and sometimes I would have this accent of pronouncing the letter F word like a letter P or um, it O with the letter U or something like that. It's a little bit hard But through constant practice, I get to learn a bit more or learn to control it for a bit. Yeah.
Does it kind of
So
hurt?
it's
It's got to be like a
yes,
teacher though, like on the aspect of like you're teaching people a whole new language, and then by the time they get it, like they start being able to speak properly to you. You're like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then next thing you
yes,
know, they move on, and you have to teach a whole new group of people where you're like, oh my god, it's back to square one.
yeah, and also the kids. And when it comes to kids, their attention span is really short, so it's really testing your patience out.
I'm an adult.
And
My attention span's not very
oh,
long at all.
yeah, you know, when I see those kids, at one point in a matter of, for example, 1 minute, 1 minute, they're listening, and then all of a sudden they would get their toys out and they would play with it, and sometimes they would show, "Oh, teacher, this is oh," they would, they would play with it, and they would not listen at you. So it's really hard, and sometimes um, parents would accompany them just to listen to you, and you really have to be creative also when it comes to teaching those kids to get their attention.
So
So it's really hard.
what's the age group that you're teaching them?
It's actually diverse. I can really go from kindergarten, up until the those people who are traveling abroad. So it's really,
Are
really
you ever
diverse.
having like maybe a 3-year-old sitting next to a 90-year-old? They're both kind of, I guess, slobbering at the mouth, but at the same time, you have to teach them like a compatible words.
Yes, we sometimes I would encounter students who are 3 years old and then accompanied by an older brother who is a 5-year-old kid, and they would play with each other sometimes. So yeah, it's just a fun experience overall when it comes
Do
to
you ever
teaching.
get like the parents, for instance, are they ever maybe the ones that don't really know that well of English or whatever language you're teaching, and then the kids are the ones developing it? Like they don't have any issue or thing to want to learn about it. They're just like, I'm good. Like let my kid learn so he can travel. I'm fine here. I don't really need to learn English.
Yes, so far the parents are really, really good. I don't see any problem with the parents. They're actually the ones who are pushing their kids in teaching English, and when I teach those kids, they would even encourage their students to do this, repeat the words with me, or um, follow the instruction. Awesome.
So a lot of times, like for instance, let's say, how did you get started into this? Like, it was this something that you were just like, I'm pretty good at English. I mean, I'm pretty good at learning things, languages, and being able to teach and have the patience, or was it more like is it common in your household? Like, does everyone speak another language or something? And that's kind of where you grew up bilingual, or something you had to develop.
Yes, I grew up bilingual. English has been a part of my life since I was younger. Uh, when I was young, my parents would teach me through Magic English. I don't know if you're familiar with Disney Magic English films. So it's an educational thing where uh, I get to practice those stuff. And when I grew older, just like in the high school, we also have this English speaking campaign. It's part of our curriculum. It's also part of our curriculum. So in English speaking campaign, we really have to speak English uh, from 7 o'clock up until the end of our class time. So if you were caught speaking in vernacular, you're given a card, which by then at the end of the class you will be paid. Uh, or sorry, you'll pay a certain amount of money for that. So you don't want
Wait,
to.
you would get fined
Yes.
for
Yeah,
speaking
we
another
definitely.
language?
Yes, definitely.
See, this is scary because you get to see this in the United States a little bit. What happens is like depending, it's not really a fine, it's more of like a personal thing. Like for instance, like some of my friends who are of Hispanic descent, their parents don't like it when they speak English at the house because a lot of their parents don't know how to speak English that well.
Ooh.
So it's seen as like insulting them. So then it's forbidden in their house. So like I come over, I have to learn a couple of Spanish words or Hispanic words to be able to speak. Um, just to be able to talk, because they get offended because their kids know English very well. It's been a
Yeah.
major thing for them. I mean, I grew up with these guys, but their parents moved over here wanting a better life. So like, I need to make sure my kid learns. I don't really need to know the words that well. So then they get insulted. So then it's like you're doing a crime. I'm like, but you're actually getting fined a little card when you speak another language.
Yes,
Like,
definitely.
is it because the person that's giving out the cards is like, I only know one language? Which, I'm not gonna lie, I'm jealous of you, dude. I really am, on the aspect of I've been wanting to learn another language, like full on, where I could speak it as well as I do English. Well, kind of. I don't really speak English that well. I have a Baltimore accent,
Oh,
but when like just being able to talk or flow like this, I would love to learn a new language to be able to do so I can get better people for the podcast. Not just better people, but expand my horizons out, because much like
yeah.
yourself, you have an opportunity being a podcaster as well, to be able to talk to people that are English, talk to people that are in the Philippines, talk to people that are anywhere in your language, I guess, section that you can deal with.
Yes. So it's really diverse. You can there's a ton of opportunity when you speak in English. You get to speak in other countries. And maybe at my work I get to apply this English skill as well. I also worked in a call center for clients in Canada where I help them with their billing problems, technical issues, with their internet, telephone, and television. So it's been a part of my life
You're the
for a
person
very,
I'm
very long
calling at
time.
customer support, the one that told me that their shift's about to end when I was like, I need help with my internet. They're like, no, my shift is about to be over. I'm like, bro, we're going the whole day without internet. Yep. I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's really a pain sometimes, being in the being in the call center and being yelled at those customers. I know, but I know that these customers, they're not their pain, or not really pain, but their frustration is not directed towards you, but towards the company. But their negative energy is, because you're the one receiving the call, so there's that negative energy is
Yeah.
also directed to you.
Well, it's because like
So
you're not really seeing the person, you're seeing a face. It's like arguing on
yeah,
Xbox or social media. You're getting mad at the voice, not really the whole. You're really mad at the whole thing. I tell people like it gets hard because a lot of people consider like cursing as like a type of like frustration or anger, and I'm like, no,
yeah,
sometimes it's just releasing stress. Like I'll be out in the middle of public and I'll just be like shit, like like I forgot something, and people will be like around me like backing up, like he's angry. I'm like, no, 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 I'm not angry at you. I'm just saying out loud. It helps relieve like
yeah,
this load off my back. But people look at it like curse words. I'm like, I think more people should curse. It's relieving. It's amazing.
yes,
Like, yeah, like for instance, you have the best opportunity right now. So in your country, for instance, there are some people that probably don't know a word of English, don't know how to speak it, don't even want a willingness to learn it. It might be more common that a lot of people do know English, but at the same aspect, you don't have to really worry about like, I don't know, like you're the rarest one, but you can literally go you can curse in English around
yeah,
somebody that doesn't know it, and they won't know what you're saying. They'll be like, oh, that's interesting. You could relieve so much stress. You could talk shit on people. You could do whatever you want, and nobody would know.
that's right, definitely. And when you curse, it gives you really a different feeling. You know, although my parents, my family isn't used to cursing. They don't want me to curse, but I actually curse behind their back. Not really behind their back, but when they're not around, I curse at something, not directed towards someone, but um sometimes out of frustration. You get to release. It's releasing, as what you said. So it's really good sometimes when you curse, and it's being true, being 100% yourself. It's being true to yourself when you curse sometimes.
Which is
So
it's a really hard thing to do. I mean,
yeah,
if you want to talk about language barriers, like we have a couple of Hispanic people that work at my work, but they'll say stuff under their breath,
and then they'll say stuff in another language that I don't truly understand. Like he's one time he looked at me and said Blanco, and I was like Blanco. I was like, I freaking heard that word out of the one Spanish class I've taken. I googled it, and it was white, and I was like, yes, I am white. And then he like, oh, like you could see his face like drop, like, oh, I didn't think he would understand that. And then he acted like he didn't understand a word I was saying, and I was like, I caught you slipping up, because that's a thing, is that when you know another language, you can sit there and talk trash, but then somebody knows it. It's like, oh shit, they know
Oh, you
exactly that I
fucked up.
just, yeah, yeah, they know the slip up. So I'm like, that's a benefit of learning another language, but at the same time, being able to make somebody more comfortable. Because the one thing I really appreciated about me trying my hardest to learn Romanian or Bulgarian was I would ask these students, hey, write down 10 words every single day on a piece of paper. It would get frustrating to them. Like, I don't feel like teaching you a language. But then eventually, like, all right, yeah. But it made it so much easier, because when we would be on the radios at work, I would hear them struggling to figure out what people were saying. And they kept asking, what? Excuse me? Huh? I don't like, I'm not understanding what you're saying. You're speaking too
Yeah.
fast. And without seeing somebody's lips, it's really difficult to be able to fully understand the language. So then I would say over the radio exactly what the person was saying, but in their language. And they would be like, oh, thank you. Like, Jefash, thank you. Like, I'm like, you're welcome. I'm happy to help. And it makes them more comfortable, because that opens up a door to wanting to be open to me. Next thing you know, I was getting to know about their lives. I was getting to know about their history. I was getting to know, like, we used to call them nicknames. Well, not me, but people that we
Other
work
people.
with, because their names were like 50 syllables long, where you're like, oh my God, like
Oh my
I
god.
don't, do I say it with a huh? Or do I say it with like, it's like a weird accent you got to put on it. So I would learn their names. Like one was named Chris. I was like, Chris, what's your real name? That's the one we gave you. And he goes, oh, my name is Christoph. I'm like, why? That's not even hard. But people would call him like Spike, because his hair was spiky like yours.
Yeah.
They would call him Spike because of that. And I'd be like, all right, like I thought he liked it, because he would always smile and nod his head and be like, okay. So it's like, all right, he likes Spike. And I remember I was out by the
Oh my
trash
god.
cans throwing out some trash, and smoking a cigarette. And he goes, I'm like, hey, Spike, do you got a lighter? He goes, hey, can you do me a favor? Or like, in like, kind of like, I'm obviously paraphrasing because his English wasn't the best, but he was like, just, I don't like Spike. I'm like, what do you mean you don't like Spike? That's what everybody calls you. And he goes, it's a dog's name. And that hit me. I was like, oh my God. Like, I thought that was something you appreciate. Like, I like, my name's Robbie, but I kind of like to be called Rob. But I was like, I thought that was a thing. Like, you like to be called Spike. And he goes, it's a dog's name. So I made sure I went into the back office. I went everywhere where there was written down the names of the housemen that were working. And wherever it said Spike, I said, don't call him that, call him Chris. He wants to be called rather that than Spike. And I changed it everywhere, but the supervisor didn't listen. And he was like, he loves it. He loves to be called Spike, and started shouting him out in front of everybody. Spike, like, see, he loves it. And everybody's around me. I'm like, he doesn't like it. Look at his face. And he's like smiling, kind of like doing like that, nodding the head, like, yeah, okay,
Mm.
okay. And he goes, you like to be called Spike, right? Right, Spike? And he just goes, it's a dog's name. And then you saw the supervisor's
Oh my.
face drop. And I was like, this wasn't, and he pulled me aside. He was like, I don't think that was cool, you calling me out in front of everybody. I was like, no, 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 no. I wasn't trying to. But what I'm saying is, you're not paying attention to someone else's feelings, which is a huge problem nowadays. Not a lot of people are paying attention to another person's feelings when things are said. A lot of times you're not thinking about the other person's perspective, and then you lose hindsight on what it is to be empathetic. And that's a line today that gets pushed back and forth, and I don't feel like it should.
Oh my gosh. That makes me remember when I encounter a class sometimes. Uh, when I encounter classes sometimes with kids who are totally beginners with the English language, uh, when I ask them what's their name, then they would speak of their Chinese names, and when I ask, "Well, do you have an English name?" And they said, "No, no, I don't have an English name." So I would try really hard to make a name for them, and uh, I, which I think would suit their character as well. So sometimes I would make some random names. So, but I don't know. whether they would like it or not.
You
So
got to start
I
tossing out
would ask.
badass names to people. You got to be your name is Thor. Your name is Beowulf. You
Well,
just got to
yeah, yeah.
start naming people. So when they come over here, then that's their name. So then everyone like that, it becomes a more common thing. I'm tired of running across like Joes, Johns, Jeffs, and James. I'm like,
Yeah,
let's do Beowulf. Let's do stuff that's gonna make it seem like you're gonna kill somebody because that is awesome.
yeah, Beowulf. But actually, when I name them, I would try as close as their pronunciation with their Chinese name. For example, when they say Lee or something, where there's a Lee phonic out there, then I would ask them if it's all right to name them Lee or something, Lee. So because that can be an English name too. So
I'm
yeah,
curious, what would my Chinese name be or Mandarin name, whichever one. I'm not trying to be insensitive. I'm kind of, my geography is really messed up. Like I'm just know Canada is above the United States and
yeah,
Mexico is below us. And then Australia is like somewhere off to the right. And depending on where you're at, it could be the left. I have no clue.
yes, yes. It's in the left. Yeah, Australia is on the far right, and then Philippines is here, a little left,
Look,
and
if I was going
then
to come over to where you're at, what would my name be given to me? Because I'm not going to go by Robbie. I want something that's going to make it seem like, hey, I was born and raised where that is.
hmm. Let me see. I don't know. I don't actually. I think we would usually go with whatever your name is. I don't know what's your real name actually.
Well, that's getting robbed.
Um,
Holy crap. Like, I don't want to,
well,
I should be given a special name. I don't want to be called Robbie over there. I want to be called like something that's like 20 letters long or something.
Roberto.
That's
Roberto can.
that's Spanish. Don't do that to me.
Okay, but what's fun, Roberto? Philippines is actually a Spanish colony, so we would usually call. We have those names here in the Philippines. There's a lot of Roberto here in the Philippines, so yeah.
Damn it. I thought it
Uh,
was going to be something like Raj or something. I don't know. Something cool where I would either sound more like, I guess, monkish or so. I don't know if that's insensitive. I don't want to say that, but that's where the one thing I want to do with my life is I'd actually like to go up into like the temples and actually sit and like be able to enjoy like finding peace and harmony that way without having a cell phone on me. Like that is freaking amazing because the cell phone is a master of deception, I would say. As soon as I start doing something with my life, if I start going out, like, well, it's my day off. Well, I've waited around till 1 p.m., haven't got a single message on my phone. I'm going to go get some groceries. And the next thing I know, my phone just starts blowing up. As soon as I shut the door to my house and lock it, my phone starts blowing up. I'm like, why? When I'm starting to get my life into a routine or I got to go do my errands, and then life hits you like, hey, here's an email from Yahoo that you haven't been subscribed to in about 30 years. I'm going to send that your way. Oh, you bought something with your Apple receipt. Here's that. I'm like, bro, what is with all the notifications?
oh my gosh, that's really insane. Speaking of apps on the phone, yeah, definitely. Sometimes phone can really be a tool for deception, but phone can also be a tool for something good. It can be
That's what it's meant to
used.
be, but people don't
Yeah,
use it that way.
yeah. It's just unfortunate that people don't really use it, those phones to its full potential. Mostly throwing hate
Well,
and
well, look, for instance,
trolling.
it's amazing for us to be able to connect this way. That's what it's meant to kind of be, but it's not, the line doesn't just stop there. It's why everyone's so obsessed about like the Neuralink. It's going to be the most amazing thing. I was like, that's the plan for it. But at the same time, people
Yeah.
are known to be kind of creative with new technology. So that's the nicest way I could put that, which is that you're going to start researching porn on your brain. You're going to be
Yeah,
doing a research
yeah.
paper in class. You're going to be teaching me another language, and I'm going to be scrolling through porn on my head. Like
Oh my gosh.
that is what's going on. You think kids are going to want to learn then when they have all that at their brain?
Oh my gosh. That's you know ah s- uh, the porn thing. People will get really curious when once they have the tool, and definitely I think it's part of being a person as well, being curious of something.
So I
Um,
have a question for you here. This just came up to me recently. My buddy had bought a new game for PlayStation, which was supposed to be in all Japanese, is how they want you to play it. They had made the game so the regular language is in Japanese. They made it so the whole scene or whatever the view that you're looking at the game is in like a black and white kind of old school like karate movie type feel. And then they give you like English subtitles, and then you can switch to English if you want. But then they warn you, like, hey, we want you to play it the original way. The creators of Ubisoft got a lot of crap from it because they said that was insensitive to another culture by copying or using stereotypes. And it was, they actually hired traditional Japanese actors to voice the game characters because they wanted you to, everything is so influenced with English. Everything is so influenced with you got to be English or that's it. Like even for the Romanian and Bulgarian kids when they were coming over here, they were taught that in school was English. That was called class, was you had to learn English, and it was seen as a dominant language. Like you can get away with just knowing English, knowing nothing else. Nobody ever wants to go expand their horizons to another language. And I was like, it was nice to see Ubisoft decide to play an all Japanese game on the aspect of like, we need to learn another language. Americans, English in general, nobody really has the like I guess the want to learn another language. I'm like, but you should, because then you some people don't want to learn English, but it's not taught
yeah,
in our schools. I mean, it is, but it's like a class. Like I took HVAC to not take Spanish. And then I went to a hotel where I was the minority and I should have taken Spanish because that would have helped me out. But instead I took a class that I'm never going to ever use in
yeah,
my entire life. So it's like
yeah,
people were getting sued at Ubisoft for that, but they were like, no, they hired real traditional Japanese actors, voice actors, everything to actually give authentic Japanese to it because they wanted to expand people's horizons on one day you're going to play something and it's not going to be in English, and then you're not going to enjoy the full effect to it. So why don't you try maybe pushing you towards learning a new language, trying to break out of our comfort zone where people have to change to us and we have to change with everyone.
wow. Yeah, that's really an interesting idea because you know people are, especially in America. Yeah, you're right. People don't want to. Maybe people don't want to learn another language, but definitely you should, right? You definitely should, because there's a lot, there's a lot of cultures, and I think yeah, it's part of the. I think you also have to respect other things when you go there. It's part of their life, and um, yeah, I don't think
It's a comfortability thing. When you can
yeah,
speak another
yeah,
person's language, they immediately become more comfortable. You see their eyes light up like, oh my God, like this, I don't have to try and struggle through. Like it really takes out the era of conversation because the fact of if you're talking to someone who speaks another language, the conversation, they're going to try and find words that they're comfortable and they know what they mean. But then a lot of times you're going to say stuff and their head's just going to nod like, okay, that makes sense. But I'm just going to keep nodding and hope they know I don't understand what they're saying. And that's the issue
yeah,
is you want that comfortability. You if you learn Spanish or something, I guarantee you I would have gotten to know the people I worked with way better. Just on the aspect of they knew Spanish, that was their main language. They barely knew a little, like we had one housekeeper that didn't know any English. And it was hard because like I would have to ask people, hey, can you translate this to her so she knows what I'm saying? And she would just nod her head. And then after years of building up that, because let me tell you, that racial thing, that whole minority line, that wall for me was built up and taken down every single day. I was the only white guy on staff for like a good almost 3 years. So trying to break into those niche groups, because at lunchtime they would all sit together, they would all want to eat together, and then I would be sitting by
Yeah.
myself and they would be speaking a whole nother language. I had built the trust up, the family bond with them because they would got to know me. They were like, all right, this kid's going to be around for a while. But every day, whether it was a hard day, if it was like they had 150 something rooms they had to clean, it was they would be stressed out and start screaming and yelling, and then I would go back to square one again. And it was like, damn, like whenever you're starting to get close, you get pushed away, and it's because there's that disconnect,
Barrier.
the language
Yeah.
barrier. And it's like that is something that can be taken down if people went above and beyond to kind of learn another language, which I've been trying to do. I have literally downloaded apps, but every app sucks. I've tried my hardest to have my friends teach me, but it's a whole patience factor too. And when, like, for instance, you being good with patience is surprising for a 23-year-old. Like most kids our age are like, no, that's not happening.
No way. No
Wow.
fucking way.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, oh my god. No, no, and no, I'm not gonna do that. Oh my god, because yeah, it, some people are like that, especially people of our age. They're
It's a whole
so
crawl
cold.
to want something bigger and better now. The hard part is knowing what that payoff is. Like if you told me right now, I'm going to take a class, I'm going to learn another language, but it's going to be a 5-year process. I'm going to be like, oh, fuck, 5 years to learn another language? Really? But then nobody says that, like, yeah, but once that 5 years is up, you get to learn a whole new language where you can go to a
Yeah,
whole other country and talk to people you've never even thought of that you would be able to manage a conversation with. And I'm like, that is enticing. That would get me into the class. But then once I'm sitting down and after the first week, I'd be like, this is too much work. The hard part is that too much work, people don't see the payout. They don't see that payoff.
yeah. The fulfillment in learning another language is when they mastered or when they learned a bit about that language, it opens a whole new possibility for them. And especially when you go to another country, oh my god, now I can understand you, now I can I can communicate with you better, now I can relate with you. There's something like that. So
And then
that's really
somebody
awesome
tosses
with
out the thought like, well, once the Neuralink gets in, then we'll have the translator that'll meet. Like our phones updated, and when the iPhone updated, for instance, they fixed their translator. They made that like an actual app because of how common like immigration's becoming in America and just all over the states, all over the world. Everyone's becoming a little bit more cultured from different cultures. Okay, that is an amazing app, but then people are just like, I'm never going to use it. It's like, what? You're totally missing out to practice that in your free time. We're on another lockdown again, so why don't you just put on that app and start learning a whole nother language? Start playing some games that are involved, like, oh, he's from Israel, he's from this, and then just start speaking their language. Be like, hey, man, like, let's get to know each other. You could make an awesome friend, like a pen pal, like back in jail, where they would send a letter out to somebody and you get a letter
yeah.
back. That's what you could be doing, but with people through
Wow.
the internet.
Yeah, it's it's definitely a good way to learn when you have the app. But sometimes prefer people don't prefer it, and it's really a practice. It's really a practice, and I think it depends on what kind of learners they are too. You know, maybe they're learning through the app, or maybe they're listening through a podcast. You know, so that would also depend on you know their kind of you know learning, or what kind of learner they are too, when
Well,
it comes to
you
learning.
you being a podcaster, for instance, how difficult was it for you to be able to understand like English podcasts? Because I feel like that's probably the majority of podcasts out there. It seems like it's a trend. It's still kind of newish, though.
Being a podcaster, especially in English, um I actually listen to a few, and I actually understand it well. uh and also, because it's in a video form. Sometimes it could be in a video form and they have the subtitles in it. So that definitely helps a lot. And if I don't hear the words, some words clearly, so it's definitely a big help
I mean, I
sometimes.
get stuck on it too, dude. Like I'm listening to
Yeah,
some dude talking, and I'm like, is he speaking English at all? But he's like drunk, or he's like just not saying the full length of his words, like trying to make it shorter than it actually is, which is completely butchering the English language. I have an issue with that. Like I try my best to use some large words here and there, but like some people don't even try. Like they're just like store. I'm like, store what? Like, are you storing nuts in your house? No, 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 no. Store. Like, let's go to the
or
store. I'm like, say the sentence, man. Like, it's not that you're not saving any time. We say www when we say, oh, this is my website, www. That's not faster. World Wide Web is faster. You just made it even longer for yourself. But since it's letters instead of a whole like word, you think it's
yeah.
shorter. I'm like, that's not how this works.
When I listen to some recordings as well, and if I don't get the right word, and oh, let me go back here for a bit. Let me go back. I want to get what's it really, you know, what does it mean? What does it? Oh my God, I can't. Oh, let me go back
You're
here for a
explaining me
second.
and Alex Jones. Whenever I hear that man talk, I got to go back to what he just said and rewind it every 2 minutes. I'm like, I don't know what he's saying. I mean,
Yeah,
like sometimes I listen to a podcast, like I usually have it always in my head, just mindlessly playing one. Then I'm like, all right, well, if I'm doing something, I'm like, it's background noise, so I'm not really fully paying attention to what they're saying. But then if I'm like listening, I'm like, hold on a minute, rewind. What? They think this
what's
movie's
this?
terrible? And like next thing you know, you're messaging that person like, wait, you think this movie is terrible? They're like, yeah, did you said you listened to it? I'm like, I did, but I guess I wasn't fully paying attention to what you were saying. I was just listening to key points, like whenever my name got mentioned.
And those words sometimes can. You thought that it's actually a whole different word, but it's actually that simple, right? It's just as simple as
It's like
a
the
three
Mandala
letter
effect,
word.
dude. It's like the Mandala effect.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Like where you
Holy
think you
moly!
remember something and the next thing you know it's actually not true. Like everyone remembers Mr. Rogers saying it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. He actually said it's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, like his neighborhood, nobody else's. So everyone remembers that wrong. I'm like, I think that's because we're not really fully paying attention to what's being said. We're focused on something else. So when you're listening to a podcast, you're mishearing things like, wait a minute, you said you're not for climate change, you don't believe in it, and it's like, did I say that, or was I just seeing another person's perspective? And the next thing you know, they're like, oh, well, I guess I really didn't listen. It's like, no, you didn't. You
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah. So sometimes it's, oh my God, it's just really hard to understand sometimes, especially the factors of accent, uh, the speed of how he's saying it. It's really different. It's really
That's what
different.
that's what I'm saying. Like I have friends that are from other countries and they're listening to my podcast, and it's like they're like, "Can you slow down?" I'm like, "No, my brain moves so quick. Like I'm just trying to say whatever comes to my mind." And they're like, "Yeah, but I can't. I have to keep rewinding. I have to play you on half speed. It sounds like you're talking on 2 times speed." I'm like, "Sorry, I'm just talking. I like to talk quick."
And yeah, and even on half speed, and like when you hear it on half speed, 0.5, like what?
Yeah.
You also can't understand it. It's really hard.
What are these people
Hard.
saying? It's like, all right, well, at that point, you feel like you're stuck in molasses where you're just
Yeah.
slowly crawling through. What made you want to become a podcaster? Like, what do you podcast about?
My podcast is about giving insights, different aspects of life. I started the podcast because I was actually inspired at that time. It was in the middle of the lockdown. I didn't have. I was looking for work back then, and uh, it's actually a government job because it pays really well. But I didn't get accepted. Especially, it's also a hospital, by the way. It's also a hospital.
I was
What
gonna
would
say,
the
wait, you didn't get accepted? Fuck them. And then you said hospital, and I was like, I can't say that. No, we can't. Not a hospital. They're trying to help people.
yeah. And what would have happened if I got accepted at that time?
We would
And
have never met.
yeah, we would have never met, or we would, I would be dead right now.
What?
So
What?
I would
That's
have,
a hold on a second. That's a big decision right there.
yeah, I might get infected by the virus out there, and then it just uh and so I was, and I think I was really blessed at that time. And as I was able to find another work in at home, um my boss just, you know is one of my tasks was to listen to a bunch of Gary Vee videos, a bunch of
Oh,
Gary
sweet
Vee.
Jesus, that's where you messed up.
Yeah, so that's where I really learned a lot. So
Look, Gary Vee has some great insights, but I don't believe in motivational speaking. I think it should just be free because I think insight into
yes,
someone else's life from a different perspective that could help somebody shouldn't be a payment. But I get it where you have to make money. I understand that aspect of thing. But you mentioned
yeah,
something that's really important. When one door closes, another one opens.
yeah, definitely.
People look at a missed opportunity like it's the end of the world. I do it too. If I miss something like, oh my God, I missed the sale on the
Over.
carrots at the grocery store. And I'll have this like inner turmoil, but it's like another door will open. And you never know what life's going to throw at you because it throws a lot of things. And as much as I say I hate motivational stuff, I'm pretty motivational when it comes to like just tossing out things. A lot of times it seems really darker than it actually is, but you're honing in on the pain and making it worse and worse. It's like if you have a splinter in your finger, you can't stop thinking about the splinter. Like the people that are like, I'm just going to let it work its way out. That's bullshit. I am looking at that splinter 24/7 trying to figure out how in the hell did you get in there and how the hell do I get you out? Like that's the whole my whole brain's on it until it's gone. It's a one-track mind mentality. You need to have it like I didn't get this today, but what about tomorrow? There's going to be a new opportunity.
Yes. There's actually something better tomorrow, or there's something maybe another time. It might be today might be not that really good, but next time there's actually something better, and there's a ton of opportunity out there, and then people would just stop there and think that it's over. It's really unfortunate sometimes, and you know, and I think this time allowed a lot of people to really innovate, and to try to pursue what they really really want, and like rethink, take a step back. So it, COVID has been such a blessing to I admit that you know COVID took a lot of lives, but at the same time, it's also a blessing. It's also a
It's
blessing to
it's the way you're looking at it. I always tell
yeah,
people because all you hear nowadays when people talk about it is the bad stuff that happens. I'm
yeah,
like, but what's the thing that benefited you the most? Like the happiness factor. And a lot of people are like, I think it's I'm not spending enough time with my family. I think it's like like for me, I had this struggle with working out every single day, which I still do, but I mean killing myself at the gym. And then like once COVID shut down and all the gyms were closed, it was like I was working out from home. I was like, wait, why am I killing myself on something like I would stop vacations, I would stop all this stuff. I just stopped doing it for 8 years. And now it's like, wait a minute, the whole world is out there for me to see, and all I'm seeing is the confines of a weight room. Like it's once that like stress that was had been on my head and been like this forced nagging thing that I had to get done every single day, like even before we talked, I was working out. It was like it's something that helps me get settled, keeps my demons at bay, but it shouldn't be something that confines me or handcuffs me to a certain spot. It's something I have to grow and go above and beyond past it.
yeah. And also, speaking of the gym, I'm also not comfortable with it. It's really hard indeed. The process is, oh fuck, it's lifting weights here and there, and then uh, doing all this stuff just to keep yourself healthy. No, I actually did a little bit different to maintaining my shape, but now I don't do it anymore. uh, you know, uh, COVID is uh, uh,
What would you say COVID helped you realize about yourself?
COVID helped me realize about myself when it comes to what I really, really want to do in life. I really want to be, doing like this. I discovered this podcast, and I'm actually loving it. Although, uh, it's I'm an introvert, and I find it hard to speak sometimes. So it became a new my new comfort zone, and I was able to discover a bit more about myself, what I really want to do.
Hey, you gave me the opportunity to talk.
Yeah. So going back to the gym, so I wasn't doing the gym. What I instead did is I went to the arcade. I went to the arcade center.
That's a
I
big
don't know if you're
shift, bro.
familiar
That
with.
is a big shift. An arcade, you went to a video game place instead of going to a weight room.
Yeah. So instead of going to the gym, I actually thought about playing this DDR. I don't know if you're familiar with DDR, the Dance Dance Revolution, something like that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So that really helped me a lot when it comes to reducing my weight, and it's just fun as well
That's what
because
the Wii
I
was
also.
for. The Wii was supposed to be like, hey, let's get moving, let's get functioning. And then they figured out you can bowl while sitting down, which was like the whole point of the Wii was you're supposed to stand up and do the moves. And then it
Yes.
would ask you, maybe you should take a break. It's like, don't fucking tell me what to do. Wii, I own you.
Oh my gosh. We I actually haven't played Wii, but the activities uh there in Wii are really good for the health. It allows you to do exercises. You know,
So you figure out cheat
there's
codes. Much like any
yeah,
console, there's cheat codes. You can bowl sitting down. You can play baseball sitting down.
yeah.
It's not before it used to tell you, make sure you're aware of your surroundings because you could hit something and knock it over.
Especially if you're in VR.
Like, bro, I was playing Harry Potter on the Wii and I was casting spells. I was getting up and standing up and like casting them like, oh, I was going full motion into it. And I forgot to tie it to my wrist and it flung into my TV and I broke it. And I was like, damn.
Oh my god, no, that's really expensive as well.
They need to make a
So
game like not virtual reality, but something where they actually hook up sensors to like your actual body
yeah.
parts so they can tell if you're sitting down and like I don't know, you walk into a room and it scans you into the game or something. I know technology isn't there yet, but it's a way you can't cheat where it's like, look, we know you're just moving your arms and you're sitting down on the couch right now. So stand up and actually start running. It's like, all right, all right.
Yeah, that was really fun. We is the early VR. Because um, you can do a lot of activities before, prior to VR. When VR was invented, everybody was uh, doing a lot of activities, chat and I don't know. I haven't played VR actually, but I watch streams of VR, and it was fun. I really hope to do it when uh, when I have more money.
Well,
Uh,
you said that you really want to do this, like podcasting type thing. So why don't you have you ever thought about maybe looking for like a local radio station job where you're able to speak to people?
I actually tried to look for job at the radio station, but I wasn't actually accepted. Yeah, so
You got find another one or you keep on trying, dude. I'm telling you, man, from
actually
someone
just
that look, my parents work in radio stations. I denied that opportunity because I didn't want to do what my parents did. You got to find your own avenue, man. You got to work at it. If you can create your own, you could do that through this. That's what podcasting is basically. Just
yeah.
make it a radio station alive. My best friend, his brother had a radio station spot from, I think it was like midnight to 4 a.m. And it was through, he just did it in his room. He just played techno music. He would turn on his subwoofers to where everyone would wake up in the house at 3 o'clock in the morning. It would be a bam, 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 like all like just playing music. And he had his own radio stations. Like I had thousands of listeners. And I'm like, that's all you got to do. Just do it out of your house. Technology's gotten to the point where even with the coronavirus, you don't need to leave your house anyway.
Yeah, definitely because of this technology advancements, You can even make your radio stations just from home. You can now do a podcast. You can do a radio show, whenever you want, whenever you want. All you have to do, you know, or all you need is actually sometimes just a cell phone. What apps are available on the cell phone, on your mobile phone, and you're good to go. It's
You can call it Talking with Kim,
talking with Kim. Yeah.
or you can call it the
Nice.
Kardashians and just play it that you're one of the Kims. Or yeah, there you go.
There you go. Nice name out there. Okay. So,
Why don't you plug where people can find your podcast, man? On any social platforms where people can look you up.
oh, that's really cool. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Yes, you can find my podcast, Istorya Podcast. So it's a Hiligay non-word. Istorya podcast. So you can find it on Instagram, on Twitter. You can find me as well, and on Facebook. So you can search Istorya Podcast. There we go.
And Astoria is
Talk, talk. It's a
talk.
Hiligay non-word for talk.
I like that. It's a lot better than mine. Mine's just saying conversation.
Yeah. So conversation, talks.
See,
It,
that'll never be
yeah.
popular because of the fact it's too long of a word for people to say. Conversation. Talking's way easier.
Actually, you're really, really good at as I looked at your content, it's oh my god, it's 650 plus episodes, and oh, you're making a shitload of content. Oh my god, I was really amazed actually.
I have to finalize how I get people for the show, where I have to think of like a better way to say it. Like, hey, it's just conversation. Be like, hey, it's talk. Like that's way better. People are like, what's talk? And it's like, I don't know, whatever you want to talk about. Like, because some people don't even know
Yeah,
what conversation is. I'm like, going to do a conversation. They're like, what questions are you going to ask me? I'm like, is that how you walk out into life? Do you have analyzed questions of what you're going to ask do you know who you're going to meet? Do you see the future? Are you Phil from the future? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, people just lose the aspect. They think it's going to be like scripted stuff. I'm like, no, it's conversation. I legit mean, if you had a nice poop today, we will be bringing it up on the show.
yeah, and it's funny. I think about the word conversation. It sometimes can be a complicated word because when you hear the word about conversation, it's like if you're telling someone, "Hey, we're going to have a conversation." It's like what are you confessing to me or something, or are you? Oh, what kind of
Where do we
conversation?
hide the body?
Yeah, where do I buy? Yeah, definitely. So it's complicated sometimes, but yeah, conversation is actually an interesting word. You can there's a lot of meaning into it. So
Means
I think
conversing.
yeah, conversation is also yeah definitely good. Also, so
I mean, yeah, conversation is good. I'm glad you think so too. It's kind of my whole stick here. If you would have said like conversation's terrible, I would have been like, well, giving up with the show. Gonna unplug the mic now.
yeah, definitely. Okay, so yeah,
Well, Kim, I appreciate you for giving me your time today, brother. And thank you for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank.